AFL jerseys. The AFL's recently identified this topic as a point for discussion by the board, so it seems a pretty appropriate time to ask the question. Now, having names on the back of a sporting jersey is no new idea and is widely adopted both in Australia and overseas. But the addition of names to complement numbers on the back of jerseys is really sport specific. Codes like soccer and basketball all have it, whereas codes like rugby union don't, and cricket only has it in certain circumstances. There's no real consensus on a preferred way of doing things, so we need to weigh up our options. Why would we have names on the back of player jerseys? First off, it'd make identifying players a lot easier when they're running around the park. This in turn would make commentators' lives a hell of a lot easier. One of the better reasons, I think, is that it'd be nice to see the names of new players and draftees when they first break out onto the scene. That way, rookies could make a proper name for themselves rather than just being the new guy. With the recent introduction of GWS and Gold Coast, then probably would have been the best time to implement this idea, but that's just a side point. With this in mind though, I'd rather not see the choice be made as a matter of convenience. Probably the most justifiable reason for doing so would be fan-related. Having names on the back of player jerseys would help people that are new to the sport in getting to know their team. Kids could wear the name of their favourite player on their own jerseys, and it'd be a nice touch. To be honest, most of the arguments in favour revolve around the why not sort of argument, which isn't a bad one, but we do have to look at both sides. The anti-names argument is a largely traditionalist one. A player's number is of huge significance to both the individual player and to the history of the club. The absence of a name to match the number is a symbol really that they're playing for the number of the club and not for themselves. There's an old saying in soccer that if you play for the name on the front of the jersey, the name of the club, they'll remember the one on the back, the name of the player. I can understand how many clubs want to preserve the legacy of the numbers as an integral part of club history. St Kilda's number 35, Hawthorn's number 23, Port's number 1 and Collingwood's number 5 are all huge parts of the club's history. They're usually linked to iconic players or a position of leadership or of some other significance. Yes, you can still maintain legacy with the numbers, but would having a name there really add to it? Or detract from it for that matter? The anti-names argument suggests that it might just detract from the legacy and the significance of the numbers themselves to the club. That notion has some legs. AFL is a sport drenched in history, and adding an aspect of individualism, as small as it may be, has the potential to unbalance that a little. There are a couple of other smaller points though that I think are just as important when we're talking about this topic. If you look at the back of any AFL jersey up around the neck area, there's a couple of letters or a small word to pay homage to that club's history. For example, the Swans have SMFC to pay homage to the South Melbourne Football Club that they were before they moved to Sydney. GWS have Canberra to show their links to the ACT, and the Western Bulldogs have FFC for Footscray. All these little things, these little touches, add to the argument that it's all about the shirt itself, the number, not about the player wearing it. Now, I am a bit of a traditionalist, I guess, when it comes to things like this. I like to see the tradition and the history of the game upheld. There are times when it needs to go, and there are times when it needs to adapt and evolve, but I don't see that this is one of them. There are so many things about our game that are truly unique, and one of those, I think, is the history of the clubs. Although adding a name to the back of a jersey may not distract from that, I just don't see the need for it. Sure, it could be a nice touch, but I think it's something that we can afford to leave for fans to put on their jerseys. So my view is that no, we don't need names on the back of jerseys to go along with numbers. But that's just my take. What do you guys think? Leave your comments in the section below. Should we have names on the back of jerseys to go along with numbers? Does the idea have legs? Is it a long-term thing? Would it add to or detract from club history? Or is it just one of those issues that's never going to go away until we actually get it? It'll be interesting to see what the AFL decide to do on this topic. I personally don't think they'll go towards it, but you really never know. Be sure to mash that like button if you enjoyed this video, guys, and hit that subscriber button as well. It's like giving me a virtual high five. And everyone loves high fives. Thanks very much for watching.